Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. And to those joining me for the first time, welcome. It's really exciting today. I really just thought that I would talk about something I've been thinking about. Just came to the realization a little bit ago, and I thought it was really cool. So I want to share it with you guys. Let me know what you think of it. If you want to see more content like this, like Bible studies and just revelations and just cool Christian content, go ahead and like and subscribe. I'd be glad to have you back. Without further ado, I think we should just get right into it. So, what I've been thinking about and what this revelation has gotten me into and gotten me into the headspace of thinking about is what a lot of people kind of view Christianity as, or could view Christianity as. So, I could imagine that from the outside looking in, and even within the church, people who are following God and attending church, or people who grew up there, or um, those who, for some reason or another, have left the church. I can imagine some part of them can look at Christianity and the Bible and just think of it as a rule book of you need to do this, this, these things, this, and a little more of that, and you're still not good enough. Just kind of a book of you can do this, you can't do this, of restrictions. That Christianity is just a religion of no freedom, of building up walls, of turning yourself off to opportunities. But I've come to know that that is the exact opposite of what Christianity is, you know? So, I mean, if you know, but if you don't, then I'll explain it to you. So, part of what got me on this track of thinking is this quote by C.S. Lewis. So, I've been reading Mere Christianity. If you can see that, it might be reversed. But I've been reading Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Great book, amazing. I love all the concepts in it and just the way that C.S. Lewis can flip the mindscape and just read your thoughts almost and read the terrain. I mean, this book was based on radio broadcasts during, I believe, World War II. It was in the 1940s. And some of these things that he's reading or writing and saying in this book is just crazy how he predicts, not even predicts, but he just knows that the society back then, how it operated, how people thought. And what I've come to learn is people don't really change all that much. So I just think it's so cool that he can read society as a whole so well, and what they look at, what they look to, what they admire, and what they're following. And as he lays it out, of how society almost 100 years ago, like 80 years ago, was, and I just draw straight lines to today's society, and it's just like, man, that's exact. That's exactly what it's like. And I just think that's crazy. So if you've never read that, I recommend you check it out. It's a great book. I'm not quite finished with it, but I'm almost there. So, anyways, back to this quote. And Lewis says, suppose a person knew nothing about salt, like table salt. You give him a pinch to taste, and he experiences a particular strong, sharp taste. If you've ever had salt by yourself, you know that it's pretty strong. You then tell him that in your country, people use salt in all their cooking. Might he not reply, in that case, I suppose all your dishes taste exactly the same, because the taste of that stuff you have just given me is so strong that it will kill the taste of everything else. But you and I know that the real effect of salt is exactly the opposite. So far, killing the taste. So far from killing the taste of the egg and the tripe and the cabbage, it actually brings it out. They do not show their real taste till you have added salt. Of course, as I warned you, this is not really a good illustration. This is what Lewis says. Because you can, after all, kill the other tastes by putting in too much salt, whereas you cannot kill the taste of human personality by putting in too much of Christ. But he goes on. It is something like that with Christ and us. The more we get what we now call ourselves out of the way and let him take us over, the more truly ourselves we become. There is so much of him that millions and millions of little Christs, all different, will still be too few to express him fully. So Lewis is taking the example of salt, where in a small amount you taste it, and somebody who's never had it in a meal before would think that you put a little salt in like soup. That's all you're going to taste. Saltiness. Disgusting. Which, if you put in enough salt, then that's true. But he's saying that properly, salt can actually bring out the true flavor. And in a way, Christianity is like that, where you aren't truly yourself unless you experience it. You know, you don't really get to be a true human being. He goes on in the book and he explains that we're all like characters in a play that Jesus wrote, that God has written. He knows each and every character, and unless you follow what he has designed you to be, then you aren't even truly a person, because he has designed people to be in a certain way. He designed human beings in a specific way, and if you aren't that, then you haven't truly fully experienced real humanity. So in a way, Lewis is describing Matthew 16. He's saying that the more of Christ we have in ourselves, the more of ourselves we will become. And I have that verse pulled up right here. It's Matthew 16, verses 24 through 26. It says, Then Jesus said to his disciples, Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. Whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? And so just hearing that, it sounds, or could sound, a little weird. Because it's like, how do I give up myself but get myself? Like, that doesn't really make any sense. But really, that makes a lot of sense, because, you know, if the whole point of following Christ, not the point, but if the whole process of following Christ is reversing your mindset and being not of this world, like Romans 12, to do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, then that makes a lot of sense. You know, you would have to start thinking in opposite. The way the world thinks is not the way that God thinks. You know, we are opposite of him. We are shrinking towards death, and he is ultimate life, right? So in the renewing of our minds, we open up our lives. We give it up to him, and what we gain is eternal life. You see, we leave our old dead lives behind and we pick up his. We follow him through the process of the cross, the burial, and the resurrection. Jesus was crucified, completely innocent, yet he was crucified. And crucifixion was um, the Romans' worst punishment. Like the Empire of Rome, they occupied Israel at the time. And so the Romans, they would crucify people, and that was their worst possible punishment that they could ever give you. Ever. They did horrible things to them. They had stripped the prisoners naked. Specifically Jesus, because he was a Jew, and that's one of the most embarrassing things you can do for a Jew is to expose them publicly, because their bodies are sacred. Their beliefs is that their bodies is made from God and it's holy and it's sacred. So exposing that to the world, that's one of the most embarrassing things you could do to a Jew. So they stripped Jesus naked and they chained him to a post, and they had a whip. They had a whip with shards of glass, shards of bone, in it, just like braided into the cords of this whip. They would give him 39 lashings, and each lashing, with all those things stuck in the braids and stuff, would grip onto the flesh of Jesus, and it would tear the flesh off. So you would, after 39, you would very likely be seeing his ribs, be seeing his spine, his bones sticking out of his back. And then after that, specifically in Jesus's case, before he even ever got to the lashings, they took thorns from a bush and they wove them into a crown. You may have heard the crown of thorns. And they placed it on his head. And thorns, like, these ain't like rose thorns. I've seen the thorns of Bethlehem and stuff. They're like that big, maybe even that big. Like, that being placed on your head, puncturing easily. So many puncture wounds around all of your head, all over. And after that, they would be forced to carry their cross. So it wasn't just some little rinky-dink thing. No, these crosses were huge, carved of wood. They just called them trees. They're like, yeah, he's up on the tree. It's because they were so big, They had to carry it alone. Like you look in log cabins or something like that, you see those big wooden beams and stuff. I bet you it wouldn't be too far off from the length and the width of the cross, dimension-wise. Maybe not the height of it, but big and heavy. Back then, especially for a crucifixion, didn't do much sanding. So Jesus, after being whipped 39 times, 39 lashings, bones sticking out, flesh open, bleeding from the forehead. When you get cut in the forehead, you bleed tons in your eyes. Blood going down into his eyes. Can't really see. Can barely stand. Has to carry this massive wooden beam out of town. Like, so difficult to do. They even had to get somebody to help Jesus carry his cross all the way. And can you just imagine, like, carrying that thing, splinters going into your wounds, your bones, not just rubbing on a thin part of your, skeleton. They'd be like, oh, it's just some skin and then bone. No, your bone is just on top of this, holding this thing up. Your muscle has been torn off of your body. Like, this is what Jesus had done for us. And we're supposed to follow in those footsteps. You think of that, you think of what he endured. it seems a whole lot easier for us to say, yeah, I'm going to eat a little healthier today. I'm going to stay away from junk food. No, I'm going to turn off the screens. Crucify our flesh in that way. What we naturally want to do, just saying no to that. Seems a whole lot easier than what he had to go through. But going back to the point, sorry for that little tangent, but I think it's important for us to often think about. And even my home screen is art of Jesus on the cross. It's something I like to think of often because it just changes you. The way you think about it, how often you think about it, it changes just everything when you realize that that is what he did for you. But in that way, we're supposed to follow him. We're supposed to crucify our old selves and be reborn anew, just like he rose from the dead 3 days later. It didn't end on the cross. And after that, we are to renew our minds. Because we are not supposed to be of this world. Right? How this world thinks is they view Christianity as a rule book. Things that restrict your freedom. Things that stop you from having all the options. But I thought about it. And I was like, wait. God made these laws, right? God basically is these laws. But he didn't choose these things to be sins specifically. He didn't choose, like this specifically will be a sin. Oh, this specifically will be a sin. No, who he was the basis. Anything outside of that was a sin. And you might be like, okay, well, like, that's not very fair. We can't all be like him. And in fact, we aren't like him. So why should we have to follow rules and become like him? Well, it's because everything he is life. So I realized God's law isn't a list of rules that you have to follow. Otherwise, you're being punished by him because you didn't follow what he said. No. God's law is a warning saying that if you do these things, this is just what's going to happen. A lot of times, I guarantee you, God doesn't even have to punish you because it does it itself. The sin will punish you for God. And that's what his law is for. It's saying, hey guys, don't do this. You're going to get hurt. This is going to kill you. That's what God's law is. Now, God, he gave us free will for multiple reasons. But a part of that is if we choose to sin, God will let us. If that isn't freedom, I don't know what it is. God gives us the law, but then he gives us the option to choose to obey it or disobey it. That's true freedom. He gave you a warning saying, hey, this is bad for you. This will kill you. But I'm not going to restrict you. I made you in my image. I have free will. Therefore, I will give you free will. He gave us that out of love. And that is an amazing gift. But if we choose to do something stupid with that, I would even say you had it coming. Especially now, if you've already heard his warnings for it, saying don't do that. Hey, don't touch that burning hot stove. You're going to hurt yourself. You don't own me. You can't tell me what to do. You're burnt. Like, that's literally what it is. This is why God refers to us as children, as sheep, is because this is what he sees us doing. He sees the burning red hot stove and our hands just about to touch it. And he's like, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm trusting you. I'm giving you this warning. I know that you're smart. I know that you can do this. Do not touch that. And we go like, oh. I would say you had that coming. And if you didn't know, you should. You should now. You got burned. And if you don't think you did, I'm pretty sure you still did. Just haven't seen it yet. You know? And you know, that's the other side of things. If you choose to willingly align yourself with that sin, that life of evil, you're just going to keep getting burned and scarred and hurt and bruised and beaten down and broken. You can come at any time you want. God will patch you up. He will heal you. He will hold you. He will take your burdens away. Jesus says that his yoke is light, his burden is light, and his yoke is easy. You know, come to me, all those who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Anytime. Because you have the choice to make the stupid decisions, but you always have the choice to make the right ones too. And he's trusting you. You're smarter than you think. So many of us, everybody has a brain. So many of us don't use it to its full potential. You're smarter than you think you are. Don't let anybody tell you you're stupid. God didn't make you stupid. God didn't make you lazy. He intended for you to create, to be something, to fulfill a plan, a purpose. He has a beautiful design for you. You aren't worthless. You're worth so much. He loves you. The description I said earlier, Jesus going through all that, he did that for you. He doesn't care what you did. He cares more that you're safe. He cares more that you're healed. That's why he came. So that you would have the option to be with him, to be healed, to escape that. Because if you choose that, if you choose that life of sin, if you choose to be away from him, I mean, there's good news. There's good news that we can share in God's glory. And there's good news that this world is evil, but it won't always be. God will wipe the earth of all evil. The sad thing is if you choose to line up with that evil, if you choose to line up with the things that constantly keep hurting you, then you'll be swept away with it. You know, this is the one of the things that helped me get back into Christianity. I said in my last video, as a part of my testimony, that I was at a point where I was considering leaving the faith. And I'd chosen not to. But one of the big things that helped me to decide is I knew that God was real. That was one thing I had no doubt of. I simply just wanted to live my own way. I wanted to live in the sin that made me feel good. Made me feel good in the moment. Destroyed everything in my life. So much of it. But I thought that that was the only thing that could give me joy. That could give me happiness. But I knew God was real. I wouldn't doubt that. Not for a second. I've seen too much. I've experienced far too much, but I knew that if I did that, if I walked away from God, then I'd have no excuse. Because I knew what he said. I knew his warnings. And I knew that I was about to choose to live that way. I'm so happy that I didn't. Maybe my life would have been easier if I did. I mean, that makes sense because the enemy would have no reason to attack me. Why would Satan choose to attack somebody who lives a life in rebellion to God? You're on his side then. Life gets easy. Satan is the prince of the air, the earth. We gave him the keys to the kingdom. God made Eden. God made Adam and Eve, gave him the keys to the world. They gave it straight to Satan. And we keep giving it to him every day. He's the king. He's the prince here. He's the one in charge of earth. That's why it's evil. That's why it's death. That's why it's wretched. That's why there's pain, disease. If you choose to line up with him, your life will be easy. But we're not called for that. We're called to pick up our cross. We're called to crucify our flesh and our desires. To give up our lives for God, for Christ. It'll be hard, but in the end, we'll find life. I don't know about you, but I want to choose that every single day for as long as I live. And for your sake, I hope you do too. I hope this video helped you. Good night. God bless.